Oh, hi there, boys and ghouls. Are you ready for a bedtime story? My name's Megan if you're new here, and if not, welcome back to Here She Lies, a fact or fiction horror podcast that will have you questioning everything you once held dear. Each week, we'll explore another heart-stopping tale of terror. Some of them are true, and others are just big fat fibs. It's up to you to decide which is which. If you're watching over on YouTube, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. And if you're tuning in via your favourite podcast app, then leave a big juicy 5-star review. Please make sure to have your say either in the comments box below or over on our Instagram page at Here She Lies Podcast. But before you grab a snack and position yourself behind the sofa, I'll reveal the answer to last week's episode. The story of young Lauren and her desperate search for her missing brother left us with more questions than answers. Where was Tom? Did he meet the same fate as his pal Mohinder? Is there such a thing as a game developer's curse? If so, is that the reason that Tom and his friends just vanished? As you'll remember, we were introduced to the dark entity of La Llorona, who just so happened to be the main inspiration behind Tom's doomed video game. Now, whether you believe in the supernatural or not, you can't argue with the thousands of encounters people claim to have had with the Weeping Woman. Each year, countless reports are made regarding La Llorona and her unmistakable presence, but we're not here to debate her existence, are we? No. You guys want to know if Game Over was a true story cherry-picked from the long list of paranormal gamer experiences, and the answer is nah. Are there supposedly many cursed video games out there? Yeah, quite a few, but this wasn't one of them. As a horror fan and amateur gamer, the idea of a computer game that is able to build a lifelike avatar all the while stealing your soul is intriguing, but sadly, that kind of technology only exists within the dark recesses of my mind. For now. That being said, the concept of such a game isn't exactly unheard of. Since the early 1980s, there have been whispers of those who have suffered at the hands of the almighty machine. In 1982, the Chicago Tribune reported that 2 people had mysteriously died whilst playing the popular arcade game Berzerk. According to the lore that has since surrounded the game, if you're skilled enough to square up to the final boss, Evil Otto, you should hope that you win, because allegedly, if he kills you in the game, then you die in real life. As you guys may know by now, I'm a self-proclaimed superstitious Sally, but do I believe in this particular urban legend? No, I don't. You see, what many of these creepypasta email chains have failed to mention is that aside from the strange coincidence that both men were playing Berzerk when they died, there's nothing truly remarkable about the manner in which they passed. One suffered a heart attack due to an undiagnosed congenital heart condition, and the other was stabbed by another teenager in the nearby parking lot. What is a strange fact is that both boys, 17-year-old Edward Clark Jr. and 18-year-old Peter Bukowski, both died within minutes of playing Berzerk, not only at the same arcade, but on the same machine. Bukowski, who unknowingly suffered from arrhythmogenic ventricular cardiomyopathy, suddenly dropped dead at the Friar Tuck's game room in Calumet City, Illinois. Almost 6 years later to the day, Clark walked into that very same arcade and began playing Berzerk. Shortly after, he was approached by a local delinquent named Pedro Roberts. According to locals, Roberts was bad news and was the type of kid to provoke a fight for no reason. He wandered over to the machine that Clark was on and tried to force him off the game, declaring that it was his time to play now. A physical altercation soon broke out, and the owner of the shop, Tom Blankley, claimed that he held Clark back whilst kicking Roberts out onto the street. Understandably, he didn't want the fight to spill out into the car park, so allegedly he held Clark inside for a further 10 minutes before insisting that he cool off and walk in the opposite direction home. Sadly, Tom Blankley later stated that Clark didn't listen to his advice and instead walked off in the same direction as Roberts and his crew. To be fair, some time had passed and Roberts was nowhere to be seen, so Clark assumed that he'd be safe in the company of his friends. But he was wrong. You see, their prior argument had left Roberts enraged, his blood boiling, and because of that, he felt like it was his responsibility to teach Clark a lesson. Along with his pals, Roberts hid down a small alleyway, and when they heard Clark pass by, he sprinted towards his nemesis, plunging a knife deep into his chest and puncturing his heart. Clark's senseless murder forever changed the community, and possibly even more infuriating than his death was the joke of a sentence handed down to a then 16-year-old Roberts. After accepting a very generous plea deal, Pedro Roberts was sentenced to 11 years behind bars, but he was eligible for release after serving just 3. Teresa Clark, Edward's mother, was dissatisfied with the way her son's case was handled, to say the least. As it would turn out, not everyone would recall the same version of events. During the trial, many of the young men who witnessed the attack claimed that the stabbing took place inside Friar Tuck's, not on the street outside. Whatever the truth, it doesn't change the fact that one teenager was taken to prison whilst the other was taken to the local morgue. Just a sad situation all round. Now, despite these incidents taking place almost 6 years apart, conspiracy theorists have convinced not only themselves but many others that both deaths are the result of an unholy curse. I guess it's up to you guys to interpret the facts behind the rumours. And even though it sounds like nothing but a case of bad luck to me, I'm secretly glad that the Friar Tuck's arcade is no longer open for business. On a brighter note, however, as one story ends, another begins, and as someone who suffers from coulrophobia, I will say this: if you're not a fan of clowns, it might be time to turn the page. Are you still with us? If so, grab your cotton candy and prepare to be amazed. Welcome to episode 8 of Here She Lies. I call this one Scared Silly.
911, what's your emergency?
You calling me a liar?
Oh my god, you coming? We are coming.
Okay, so I never normally post anything like this online, but it's 4 AM, I'm home alone, and I'm beyond terrified, so here goes. I don't even know where to start, but I guess my night got a little peculiar just after my shift finished a couple of hours ago. I've been on back shift at the local clinic for almost 3 weeks now, and the constant late nights are beginning to take their toll. Don't get me wrong, working in urgent care has its benefits, but after my latest string of 12-hour shifts, I've all but forgotten what those actually are. My evening was pretty slow. It's Tuesday night, so a stark contrast from the wild Fridays that I'm used to. Just as I was finishing up, a patient who'd gone a little bit hard on the old hooch decided to vomit all over me as I bent down to hand him a cup of water. I spent the next 15 minutes rinsing chunks of partially digested toast out of my scrubs, which meant I was the last to leave after the next team took over. Normally I don't mind walking to my car by myself after dark. The lot is close by, it's well lit, and in between the staff and patients, you're never really alone. Tonight, however, I had this weird feeling. I can't quite explain what it was, but as I crossed over to my car, I could have sworn someone was watching me. At the time, I chalked it up to nothing but overtiredness and slight paranoia. Like I said, the night shifts haven't been easy on my body clock, and I've only just been getting into a decent sleep pattern. It also doesn't help that we're only a few weeks away from Halloween, and there's that familiar sense of eerie vibes in the air. But I digress. Sorry, I don't mean to ramble. I'm just trying to type everything out on here before I forget any of the details. So, as I was saying, I just made it to the driver's side of my trusty little Toyota Camry, and whilst rifling through my purse for my keys, I could have sworn I heard this unusual squeaking noise coming from across the lot. The best way to describe what it sounded like is, you know when you go out for a run and you get caught in the rain, so you have to deal with the squelching in your shoes the whole journey back home? It was kinda like that. Startled, I turned around, half expecting to see one of my colleagues. Instead, I was met with a dark and deserted parking lot. For a minute there, it felt like I was losing it. There were no people, no unsettling sounds, just a few leaves circling in the wind along the asphalt. Heart still pounding from my encounter with, well, nothing, I hopped in my car, quickly locking the doors behind me. As they say, it's better to be safe than sorry, or worse, dead. I'm sure to you guys I probably sound like a raving lunatic right now, jumping at her own shadow and hearing non-existent noises. But trust me, just hang in there, because things are about to get real freaky real fast. Here I was, minding my own business, slowly turning onto my street. I won't use specifics here for obvious reasons. However, for context, I will say that I currently live in Jacksonville, Florida. As I pull into my driveway, that's when I see it. Standing on the opposite side of the road, illuminated under a street lamp, was this person? They must have been at least 6 feet tall with a slender frame, like very skinny, and they were wearing some nasty looking clown costume. Old-timey was how I described the outfit, but the rubber mask stretched across their face and neck, now that was definitely new. At first, of course, I wasn't thrilled to see some budget Bojangles chilling just a few yards away from my porch. However, like many fellow Jacksons will tell you, the spooky season can get a bit wacky around here, and after 24 years, I'd pretty much seen it all. Assuming this was just some drunken frat boy who'd taken the spooky festivities a little too far, I swiftly made my way towards the front door. As I did, I made sure to slip my keys in between 3 of my fingers. If you're a woman and you're reading this, then you'll understand why. I'm not an intimidating character by any means, and at a mere 5'1", I wouldn't stand a chance if this giraffe of a man decided to take a run at me. So anyways, here I was, just seconds away from the safety of my own home, when I hear a familiar sound that made my stomach drop into my ass cheeks. Instantly, I thought back to earlier that night, when I'd been leaving work, only to be met with the eerie feeling that someone was with me, lurking just out of sight. Every fibre of my being told me not to turn around, but I didn't listen. And let me tell you that nothing, and I mean nothing, could have prepared me for what I saw. At first I noticed a large weighted chunk of metal glinting in the dim light, and as my eyes travelled upwards, I spotted that it was attached to this long wooden handle, gripped tightly by a white gloved hand. As a woman living alone, you always wonder what you'll do in a situation like this. Will you run away screaming, maybe fight your way out, or simply just freeze on the spot? Like most of you reading this, I always thought I'd be a fighter. I'd grown up in a pretty rough area, and I'd never been one to shy away from trouble. However, as it would turn out, my body had other ideas. The man/clown person stalked towards me. The way he moved told me that he didn't consider my tiny self a physical threat to him at all. And he was right. As he approached, I could now see just how tall he actually was. And when I say this man towered over me, I'm not exaggerating. He was huge, at least a full 1.5 feet bigger than me. His near skeletal frame gave him this odd otherworldly appearance, something akin to Slender Man or Jack Skellington. He crept closer, and with my hand still clutching the doorknob, I felt myself slowly melting into the floor. Like a deer in headlights, I couldn't move. I was frozen in pure, unfiltered fear. In that moment, a surge of emotions rushed through me. Terror, helplessness, but mostly embarrassment. I was embarrassed that at my big girl age of 24, this monster was going to take my life away. And worse, I was just gonna let him. The masked stranger was clearly in no rush to reach me. He had quickly realised that I wasn't in the position to put up a fight. It was almost as if he enjoyed it, taunting me, taking a few quick steps forward before stopping to wave his weapon around like a prop. I whimpered incoherently, unable to scream for help, but he just continued forward. By this point, I was practically cowering, shrinking smaller and smaller. My mind racing, it was impossible to pick a single clear thought out from the bunch. My head was spinning and there was nothing I could do to stop it. The squeaking of the clown's massive shoes grew louder, so I just closed my eyes and prayed that whatever was coming would be quick. Just as I'd lost all hope of survival, a piercing, high-pitched bark came from the other side of my door. Cassie, my little senior Yorkshire Terrier, was scratching away. She must have heard my muffled cries from outside. Suddenly and without warning, my body shifted into motion, and before I knew it, I was in my house holding the door closed whilst flicking the deadbolt. As I did, I peeked out of one of the tiny glass panels, and there he was. Pressed up against the window was a terrifying latex clown mask. I let out a weak yelp and sprinted up the stairs to my bedroom, barricading myself inside before hiding in the closet, which is where I stayed and where I am right now. I've not heard anything suspicious since, and Cassie and I have been locked away up here for over an hour. What should I do? Should I call the police? I don't want to be a total Karen, getting the cops involved over what could just be some stupid Halloween prank. I don't live in the best neighbourhood, and I worry that I'd be wasting their time when they could be out there helping an actual victim of an actual crime. Would you call, or would you take a look around first? Like I said, it's been dead silent since I ran inside, and I'm sure that whoever was there is long gone by now. Let me know what you would do. Edit, 5 AM. Wow, thank you so much for all the love on this thread. I finally strapped on some lady balls and got out of the closet. Cassie and I are fine, and there appears to be no sign of creepy clown man. I decided not to contact the authorities. Seems almost silly now. Anyway, thanks for keeping me company, internet friends. Off to bed before another 12-hour shift tomorrow. Wish me luck. LOL. Edit. 1 PM the next day. OMG, thank you for all the kind comments. I've attached a picture of Cassie for your viewing pleasure as requested. Haha. In other news, there was apparently a murder just a few streets over from mine last night. Could be totally coincidental, but one of my neighbours says that 2 young college students were attacked in their beds at around 5 AM this morning. The police have apparently been doing the rounds, going door to door, etc. Should I mention creepy clown guy? I'm 99% sure it was just a harmless practical joke, but something still feels strange about it all. Anywho, I have to start getting ready for work, but I'll try to keep you all updated, and once again, thank you for reading. Stay safe out there. The end. Oh, just give me 1 minute. I need to go change my underwear. Just kidding. Sort of. Listen, I don't know about you guys, but to me, there is nothing more terrifying than clowns. I bloody hate the things. Now, if you're a member of the circus community, I deeply apologise, but it is my podcast and I'll say what I want. Just out of curiosity, is there anybody out there that actually really loves clowns? Like, is that a real thing? Do you guys exist? Like, certain aspects I do get, the bright colours, the wee flower that squirts out water, and who doesn't love a balloon animal? But for me, that's where the fascination ends. And I'm well aware as a grown woman of 25, it's not cool to be afraid of something as silly as clowns. But did you know that 1 in 10 adults suffer from coulrophobia, which is, if you don't know, the scientific term for being shit scared of clowns? I will admit, it's not the worst fear to have. It's not as if clown folk are just wandering around in the wild, at least not here in Scotland. However, that being said, I think all of us rainbow wig haters will agree that the year of 2016 was a dark time. If you were living under a rock and have no idea what I'm referring to, 2016, also known as the Year of the Clown, was when thousands of people reported claims of strangers stalking and silently harassing them, all whilst wearing variations of clown costumes. Some said that it was a cheap marketing ploy in preparation for the 2017 release of It. Others claimed that after a couple of false sightings, mass hysteria took over, and like a bad chain email from the early 2000s, the hoax went viral across the globe. For all you normal human beings, I'm sure that 2016 will serve as nothing but a funny time in history. However, for those of us who piss our pants at the sight of an oversized shoe, it was hell on earth. And I get it if you think I'm being overdramatic. I am, and I'm well aware that, like my phobia of flies, a psychologist would consider this a pretty irrational fear. But sadly, that knowledge won't stop me from sobbing on all fours like a toddler if Ronald McDonald should ever come my way. Yep, 2K16 was indeed a wild time, and you might be left wondering, was tonight's story a true first-hand account taken from the era, or just a manifestation of my worst fear? I guess you'll just need to wait till next week to find out. But before we lock all our doors and check the peephole, it's time to share some startling confessions from the most unhinged people on planet Earth. You guys. Welcome to my favourite part of the show. It's Pants on Fire. This obviously has to remain anonymous. My worst lie ever is that my ex is the father of my youngest child. We were split up when I got pregnant, but had been together shortly after I had a fling. I live in fear that she and her dad will find out before I die. I just pray she never does a 23andMe. I was not expecting that. You know, I will say this, you guys never fail to shock and awe me with your stories, and it's making me slowly realise that I'm a very boring person. My biggest lie is I lied about having a brother for no reason when I was 16. But anywho, I'm always happy to share the cray-cray, so if you've got your own juicy little secret you would like to share with the class, then get it sent to heresheliespodcast@gmail.com. And on that deceitful note, I bid you adieu. Find out next week if it was false or if it was true. Good night.
911, what's your emergency?
You calling me a liar?
Oh my god, you coming? We are coming.